Okay, next we're going to talk about an important concept in Adobe Animate, and the concept is that of the symbol. Symbols are basically reusable visual assets that you can use as the building blocks for your animation. To demonstrate how symbols work, I am going to draw a shape on the screen using the oval tool. I just draw the shape right here, and now I will check to see what type of object Adobe Animate thinks it is by selecting the item. And I can tell right away from the way that it's highlighted that it's a shape. Also looking in the properties window, it says it thinks that this object is a shape. So I know it is a shape. What I'd like to do is convert this to a symbol that I can store in my project library and use again and again in my projects. To do this, I just highlight whatever it is that I'd like to turn into a symbol, and then I right-click on top of it and select Convert to Symbol. Now, first of all, it'll ask me to give the symbol a name, and it's important to give it a descriptive name that will make sense to me and to other people who are working on the project team with me. And I guess I will just call this my circle. Next, it'll ask what type of symbol I want to create. There are 3 different types of symbols: movie clips, buttons, and graphics. For our purposes, we will be creating everything as a movie clip. We can talk more at another time about the difference between the different type of symbols. To be honest, now that we've moved from Adobe Flash to Adobe Animate, those distinctions are not nearly as important as they used to be. So I'm going to create this. It's going to be called My Circle. It's going to be saved as a movie clip. Last but not least, you'll see the registration point. It's one of 9 different places where you can kind of set the default X and Y position of the edge of this object when it's placed on the stage. So it'll make more sense when we drop these things onto the stage, but I would just suggest that from now on, you always make the registration point the upper left corner as is indicated here. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. All right, so now you'll notice a couple things. First of all, you'll notice that this is now being treated as a drawing object, even though I started out by treating it as a shape. Also, if you look in the library, you'll see there's an object there now, a movie clip called My Circle. Well, that's great. Let's drag out a few more copies of this onto the stage. Now you can see this is one of the advantages of symbols. Instead of having drawn a symbol again and again, once you've created it as a symbol and stored it in your library, you can just keep dragging items out onto the stage. A very interesting thing to know about this is that all of these items are linked back to the original symbol. So on the one hand, these are individual instances. So for example, I can take this symbol and I can kind of squish it like this. This one over here, I want to make a little larger. This one here, let's make it really, really tiny. And this one here, I'll make sort of squished again. And so notice how all of these are instances of the original My Circle. And also notice that I was able to go back and make little tweaks to these individual instances of it. They still clearly are all part of the same master blueprint, but I've changed each individual instance once it's been copied onto the stage. But now check this out. What I can do is go into the library here and say, I want to go into My Circle, that actual blueprint itself, and I want to change some things. So for example, I want to go to the properties of that shape, and I want to change it so instead of a solid line, it's got a dashed line on the outside. And I also want to change the fill color so it's more of a blue color. Now I can get back to the main stage by clicking the back arrow, and you'll notice that all of these instances that I had created of that master symbol, they've still kept their individual instance variations. So for example, one is squished, one is larger, one is smaller, but they've also inherited the properties of the main master symbol. So symbols are pretty cool. You will be using them a lot. One of the great things about them is just the fact that you don't have to keep creating the same symbol over and over and over again. Also, it's good to know that symbols are part of your animation file all the time. You know, sometimes you'll create a shape and you'll have it all set up on the stage, but then when you've deleted the shape is completely gone. So for example, let's say here, if I've got this rectangle and say I made like this really, really cool peach colored or let's say brown colored rectangle right here. And I just really, really loved what I had done with it. Like just there was something really cool. Maybe I just applied this effect here and I thought, wow, that just looks so cool. Now, the problem is if you just create it on your stage, then it gets deleted, then you've totally lost it. But if you had had the presence of mind to create, once you decided you liked it, convert it as a symbol and call it something like super nifty shape, then you would always have a copy of that super nifty shape in your library that you could always go back and work with. And so that has been an explanation of the power of symbols. So what I'd like to show you now is the power of movie clip symbols. One of the really exciting things about movie clip symbols is the fact that they have their own independent timeline. And I'll demonstrate what I mean by that. So let me get this circle, and I'm going to create just a basic circle shape. And I'm going to use the pen tool to put a sort of jagged line down the middle of this, just so we can see some movement when we actually animate this. And I will just highlight the part on the right and change that to be a different color, like so. Okay, so now I have created this shape, and I'm going to convert it to a symbol. I'm going to call it globe. So I will highlight the shape, select convert to symbol. I'll call it globe. And now it's going to show up in my library. Fair enough. But now watch what happens if I double click on this, whether I double click on it in the library or I double click on it in the stage, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to take me into a mode where I can edit the movie clip symbol itself. So let's double click on it. I'm now inside the movie clip timeline for the globe. And what I would like to do is I'm going to set a keyframe every 10 seconds for 1 minute. And then I'm going to use that to do, oops, that's not 10 seconds, it's right here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and 60. And now I'm going to change the rotation by 60 degrees each time. So the first time I'll rotate by 60 degrees. The second time I'll rotate by, make it 120 degrees, 108, 240, and 300. And the last frame is currently set to 0, which would be the same as 360, but just to be completionist, I'll go ahead and say rotate 360 degrees. Click on OK. Now, notice that we now have this rotation set up in the independent timeline for this movie clip symbol. And also, you can notice that all of this is happening inside that globe movie clip symbol. Now, if I go back onto the main scene, I'm just going to drag this out here, and I'm going to test my movie. And you can see now that my animation, my movie clip symbol, has its own independent timeline as it's placed on the stage. And now watch this. This is kind of cool. Now that I've got this in there, I'm going to drag out a few more of these. And I'm going to make some changes. Like this one, I am going to make a little smaller, and I'm going to change its starting position so it's like right kind of like that. And this one, I want to make a little more squished just to see what happens. And I will also change its starting position like so. Now let's see what happens now when we test our movie. So you can see that all three of these instances of the globe movie clip symbol have retained some basic information about the animation. They know that they're supposed to be rotating, and you'll see that they're rotating in predictable ways, but actually because they started out in different positions, they kind of look a little different. So this could be really helpful, for example, if you have, sort of clouds or grass or things like this, where you have instances of a basic movie clip movement that are moving on your stage, but you want to have some variation as well. And that is the power of movie clip symbols. A movie clip symbol has its own independent timeline, and you can have on your main stage many different movie clip symbols, all that have their own timeline activities going on.